and I could say, oh, I've had this happen before, and that can actually begin to change how the money, how the abundance, and um, how the relationship, because in a way, our relationship we've had is fantastic, and we're building more of a bond because we're working through something that technology challenges, which technology challenges now, they lead to, like you say, loss of people on the feed, loss of perception of trust, loss of money if you are, all of those things. And that is partly why our conversation, when we were talking about, it's that the sensory memories. And for me, in wine and food, I look and sense everything around me to add, so that how can I add value? I realized that's just it. My purpose is how can I add value to the guests, to the restaurant, to the winery, to the food. So that is, I would say, that is one of the first areas of conversation I would love to talk with you about. And again, with regards to it, just like wine and food, there's that wonderful ebb and flow likewise. So that's my first, I would say, not only the first epiphany from this conversation, it's one of the base values, the core values that I have as a person and as a businesswoman.
Absolutely. So go ahead, share more about that.
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of the conversation we were having on Saturday, I was saying it reminded me and it brought me to the realization of, if I could tell my younger self, we go through those time periods where if we could tell our 10-year-old self something, what would it be? And for me, it would be that every moment is a sensory memory, and every moment is a time where you can create and you can develop and you can add abundance. And or even like with the tech challenges, like you say, I would tell my 10-year-old self, welcome those, embrace those, and have those be your friend even more, because those are the nuggets of where we actually find what our value is, and what value in, whether it is our business, our choices that when we go out and we're a consumer. And so it really, it's that blessing. The lesson is the blessing, if that makes any sense. Because one thing, a part of our conversation on Saturday, I had heard a woman say similarly, in terms, she ran into her elementary school teacher. So she would have been around 10 or 12. And her elementary school teacher said, oh, she said, you're looking so well, Jenny. She's like, yes, I found my purpose. And teacher said, oh, I'm so happy that you found your purpose. And Jenny said, but why did it take me so long? I've been struggling and I've gone through this and that. And the teacher said, you have to live first, Jenny. You have to live life first in order to find your purpose. And then you have to have a very dark times, because it's in the dark times, coming out of those dark times, which I have over the last 3 years, coming out of those dark times, you see and learn who you needed to have with you. And in being the person that you needed to have with you, that is the value that you not only bring to the table, that is the value that many people need in their lives, that you shine your light onto them.
Oh my gosh, that's so, so good. And speaking of light, I'm going to segue really quickly and then we're going to get back to that. If you have another light in your room, it would be great because you're kind of shadowed and I want to make sure everyone can see you. Go ahead and take care of that because I need to listen to me as you're doing that. That is so, so good. And I heard it said that be the person you needed. Oh, that's great. Be the person you needed when you were that age. And I love what you said, because I'm so intentional about that with my beautiful precious grandson, 5-year old. I call him high five because he's 5, and so we're always doing high fives, and I'm doing that intentionally, creating a sensory memory. Mel Robbins talks about the high five, so he thinks I'm just playing a high five game with him, but I'm embedding those memories into him by those high fives that we're doing. Yes, great job, you did it. I Look at what happened. And when he's struggling, the other day he was struggling trying to play catch, where my daughter's playing catch with him with a football, which is easier for little kids to learn. And he was just struggling and he was getting frustrated, and then he did it. Give him that high five and create that sensory memory. So I love that so much. So what are some ways that you've been able to be that person for yourself that you need? You kind of opened yourself up to that. So I love to hear that.
I love what you've shared, and you're exactly the question. And high five, not only I do exactly, I definitely, I've combined certain things. Dr. Tara Swart, she's an amazing neuroscientist, and she reminded me when I was going through some of my challenging times. Her conversation reminded me. So when I wake up, I start intentional. I start the day intentionally. And so I say, I love my pillow. You know how usually when we wake up, it's like, okay, get up, have to do all these things. So instead, my day and my sensory beginning of wealth begins before I even open my eyes. I just say, I love being alive. I love feeling the fan, or I love my duvet. And that pre-paves the way for just love. Because without love, without intention, without love, how do we create? And we create every day. We create the show, we create our times with our children. So I go from that, and I do definitely, I take pieces of, I think it was Hal Elrod. I will, every second or third week, I will intentionally change the way that I do something. So if I brush my teeth, I'm right-handed, brush my teeth with my left hand. If I'm driving to a meeting and I take a typical route, I create a new route, and it gives my brain the sensory of a new path to travel, which also prepaves how I come to the meeting, how I come to the winery. And it's amazing because it then brightens the day, and it creates a synergy that continues. I don't know if you find this, but I think with teaching your grandchildren, when you high five them and when they learn they high five themselves in the mirror, we form a connection with ourselves that we then take out into the world. And that persona is stronger, is abundant, shines brighter, and that then has an effect on the other people. So that is first and foremost, and each day, and I'm not always perfect. I have, this and that, and I reset. I go to reset, and I find my grace. Oh, I can't hear you. I'm not sure if other people can hear. Can everyone hear me? I can't
Okay,
hear
here
you.
we go. Boy, this is so crazy. I love this. I love this. Okay, so what did you miss?
I missed all of it because
All of
when
it?
I finished speaking, I couldn't hear you. I'm
Okay,
not.
well, perfect.
Yes.
Well, I was just saying that, and hopefully, Rich, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me now. I was saying that I was giggling what you were sharing because my precious grandson is 5 years old and he loves to look at himself in the mirror. He just absolutely loves that. He's fascinated. He'll find any excuse to look at himself in the mirror. Thank you, Rich. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank
And
you.
I've been trying to get him to do the high five in the mirror. He hasn't quite grasped that, but that's okay. We're working through that. And I wanted
Exactly.
to circle back what you were saying about waking up in gratitude and love.
Yes.
Cassandra Terry, The Voice Within Wins, SOAR 2024, she taught me about the gratitude sandwich. I was really good about doing gratitude in the evening, but I didn't embrace the morning gratitude. And so the gratitude sandwich is just starting your day in gratitude. And it's gratitude for the littlest things, the first things that come to your mind, having beautiful things around you that bring you into that space. Like you said, the duvet, if you sleep with the fan on, or you have beautiful music in the background, little things like that is so critical. And that's embedding those memories.
Exactly. And you bring that point of what we talked about on Saturday back as well, because it's never too early to start. In the fact, you and I have spoken a few times about bring out your best china in terms of when I buy something, I utilize it. And when I say I utilize it, I use it, I embrace it. So I I buy ceramic from Janaki Larson, and it's a phenomenal ceramicist that a girlfriend of mine, she introduced me to this woman into her ceramics. And I have these beautiful white ceramic mugs, and I'll do my coffee or tea, or sometimes my wine or tequila. But I know that she made it with love, and so, this, with regards to sensory memories with wealth, I really am very not only intentional about when I come to a winery, when I come to a restaurant, when I come to your house, I have already done my pre-paving so that I give my best forward. And that also is why and where the wine that I choose, the glasses that I choose, the plates that are chosen, because they were made by someone. And we imbue our energy into. I always think of, a hope chest or a wooden table or a door that's, just carved and absolutely beautiful. It's that person's handiwork, but also that person's love and energy has been put into it. And that is part of where we come with value, because I know that we're all in a very interesting time period. And I'm working with potential clients where they're like, this is the best time in the world. Like, this is such an amazing time. And to have that level of energy when we are going through tech challenges, family challenges. You're raising your grandson. You want him to know he has a great world now and he has a great world ahead of him. And then we have all of the things that are on the outside that do come at us. We have things that are challenges. We have people who don't agree. We have people who they're not in a great space. And we've all been in not a great space and we want to help them. But how do we help them while still helping ourselves? And so it's all of these are added throughout our day that assist with creating our abundance, our sense of wealth. And as you say, because we need to be intentional about everything we do. So when I pay a bill, I say thank you.
That's right.
Online, on paper, I say thank you because I'm appreciative. Because I found when I was starting to be frustrated because right now we're dealing with rising costs, we're dealing with, we don't have the services that in the way that we used to, or just again, it's rising costs constantly, or with regards to restaurants, we're bringing in, it's a lot of people are eating at home more. You and I talk about how wonderful it is. I highly recommend, I will recommend wine and food and all of that, and eating at home is incredibly important, and we see the value of it. We see the rising cost of grocery prices and taxes and all of that. So then we go to a restaurant because we want to go out. We may not feel like cooking. Our energy level is low. We go, and again, it's a sensory memory. We go to a restaurant and we go to be taken care of. I always say when I'm working at a restaurant or when I'm working as a som, I'm in service. And it doesn't mean that I'm a servant, although there are times that I am, and it's okay. But I'm in service to the people at the restaurant. And so the value that you receive for the wine or the cocktail or the mocktail, and the value that you receive for the food and the service, that all comes into play. And as we all know, we as humans, and I know it's a marketing fact that is spoken about, whereby people are going to tell 10 times more people something that they didn't like rather than what they did like. So we have to put ourselves, our intention, our value out 10 times more, or 20 times more, actually. And I say 20 times more because for every 10, and we're going to have challenges. We're going to have the not so great days. We're going to fall off. So those 10, we then have to create not only 10 more, we have to create 20 more. So it's why in business, when they say put your best foot forward, it's critical. It's absolutely critical to the success of your business and your life.
Wow, so much to unpack there. I told you guys this was going to be good. Oh my gosh. And so Rich Kenny has this amazing share. He says, yes, gratitude. Let's see. I'm sorry. He just moved. Gratitude centers us and enables us to let the frustrations and concerns go to a manageable level so that we can positively focus and move forward successfully. All because of gratitude, I form the muscle memory of saying quietly or out loud, I am grateful, God, I am grateful. Absolutely. Just be in gratitude. And, whatever that is for you, whatever your higher power is for you, I find that people who are able to be in gratitude, even when things are going a little squirrely, right? There's always a lesson. And when you're talking about being in service, whether it's you're truly a server, but really it's about servant leadership. And who's the first person that we have to lead is ourselves.
Yes.
The Godfather, Annie Ansung, had an incredible room earlier that I was getting some great wisdom on, and they were talking about leadership. So really you're talking about leadership for yourself.
Very much so.
And you said, you're so on point, is that people will tell the things that we didn't do well louder and bigger than they will to sing our praises. So our goal, our mission should be to 10x that experience. I'm really working on creating an experience for my clients. And that's why I'm going to be working with the Hello LLC, Mr. David Jones. I call him Mr. Mic Drop Jones because I want
Yes.
to create an experience. It's about creating a memory, right? So I love, so that was so much fire. So
Thank
you
you.
had shared this incredible quote, and I'm going to share it here. This was on our conversation. You said, "You are always wealthy because you always bring something to the table." To me, that's a double entendre. Right? It has two meanings. And so I want to talk about what you bring to the table.
Absolutely. I bring food. I bring. So that's in itself, because it's a question or it's a statement, because it's something I've heard from both men and women. It's something I've heard both from both sides as well, because I do sit on both sides of the table myself.
Yeah.
So for me, what I bring to the table in terms of value, I bring, and I I love the fact I was in a room that Annie was hosting earlier with, um, it was about peak, it was their peak performance. And so I'm going to segue for a moment, because with the question you asked, it's very interesting in terms, I usually turn the tables when someone asks me what I bring to the table. I usually turn the tables over to what value they have, or who they are, and how great they are, because being in servant leadership and being a leader is not about talking or saying I'm a leader. And so the interesting thing, it's showing. It's in the, not only the action, it's like today, it's in us having met each other online. We had such great conversation, because that's just it. We haven't met in person yet. We've only met through these mediums, and yet I feel like I know you, and I believe likewise. So where I say it's so interesting, because people, they rely on me to be in a leadership position and to lead them through, whether it's a restaurant opening or a wine dinner with clients or a tour that they have never been there. But most importantly, I bring to the table the value that a, a person has inside themselves, and bringing that value out so that they shine, if that makes any sense. That's my ikigai, is other people, a rising tide lifts all boats. And so it's things like the people who are listening, the people who are sharing, and their wisdom, because their wisdom, it actually teaches me. And that in itself, those are just a few of the things, because I will say Leslie Flowers, she, in her Mind Over Matter, I know, because this is what I do. What I do is I love bringing what other people do to the fold, to help people see how much brighter our lives are because of them. So in pure Leslie Flowers fashion, when she does her mindset, Mind Over Matter Mondays, it is a table laden with food. It is the longest harvest table outside under the sun. There's a vineyard in the background. It's the colors of Tuscany. And we are all sitting at that table. All of us are equal in the fact we all bring different plates, different dishes to the table. And the different dishes and flavors that we bring to the table, our cup runneth over, our plates are full, and our glasses are cheering each other and ourselves for the successes that we have in just being alive and getting through to the day to be able to sit and break bread with each other.
Boom. If you're just joining us, if you're on the replay, rewind that last couple of minutes because that was fire. That was so fire. And Mr. Mike Drop says facts on facts. That's Mr. David Jones, in case you don't know. I call him Mr. Mike Drop. And he said, you are the table. Absolutely. And we have Miss Divine is here with us. And I hope she brought her chimes with her. She's just an incredible resource, an amazing speaker.
Yes.
I'm so excited. We're doing a room tomorrow, actually. I'm super fired up about that.
Fantastic.
So many amazing points. And really what I want to kind of dial back a little bit is sometimes when people think about setting the table or having wine or having pairings, that they think that it has to be really costly or elaborate. You know, me and one of my girlfriends, I call her Superstar. I've known her, gosh, almost 20 years. And we always started this little thing when I started in the insurance business. You know, we were both kind of having some challenges. And so if we had a good week, we would do this thing. We started this little tradition. We would call it dating ourselves. And we would go and buy some little things. I'd go buy some salami and some, jack cheese and a $2 chuck. And maybe it cost me $8 or $10. And I'd always say, okay, so Superstar, what are you having today? Okay, I'm having this. You know, we weren't together. She lives far away from me, but we would kind of mastermind it and just make a little pairing. And we'd send little pictures of each other. You know, we'd put out a nice little dish. And by the way, it doesn't have to be costly. You can go to the Goodwill. You can sit with your kids and do some fun little colorful thing on some dishes or some glasses or some plates, right? So yes. I would love for you to share some ideas that are more economical, something that people can do if they're on a budget. What are some fun pairings that they can do on a dime? Let's say that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I love it. And I do want to say thank you to David for the comment in terms, everyone should be able to say, I am the table and you are the table. And definitely, I always find that there is, just like we were talking on Saturday, it's not what you have, it's not how expensive, it is how much you enjoy it. So my mom and I, we have a thing whereby my family, it was Chinese food was kind of a big thing, and pad thai or all of that. So and my mom she's a champagne lady, and she's taught me well. That being said, and I talk about not just wine, but there's so Prosecco for a budget in terms of when you want to celebrate, which is every day, and champagne and sparkling wines, I always say they're such a great way to enjoy life because you can celebrate the little moments. So Prosecco is very reasonable, and it is from Italy. It's actually DOC. It is, which means denomination origin contrôlée. So it's made from the Glera grape. It is very Italian. There's also Lambrusco, which is their red grape. And so red sparkling wine for people who may not like white. For budget as well, I love and I really enjoy cider. I speak quite often about, I live local and I think global. And so I think about, how it was for people in France or whatever. It's a hot day and we have orchards and all that. So cider, even I'll go and I'll just buy one can of cider even, or a 6-pack or a bottle, because it comes in different styles. But it's a little goes a long way, and I'll share it with my mom. And with regards to food, Noni and I, every Thursday at noon, we co-host Food Diversity. And I love the fact our last three episodes have been about foods, because it's warm in our northern hemisphere. In Australia, like in the southern hemisphere, it's winter, so it is more root vegetables. But that's just it. It's, I do try and I go to the farmers market when I can, because I would rather put my money towards the farmer, and that way it's fresh. So right now we've got blueberries, blackberries, strawberries are really big, and all of the lettuce, which lettuce has become a more of an expensive item, but the vegetables that I call the rainbow, when you look at the farmers market, and you just need a few crudités, it again, because with 5-year-olds, with children and grandchildren, you want to keep it fun. And I actually, although I speak about tables in terms of as a song, I speak about, adult tables and food, wine and food pairing and all of that. The reality is our children, they see everything that we do. They see everything that everyone does. And they mimic, or they want to be us. They want to be that. So I will, even for children, because I'll do mocktails, and there's some really great, you can make your own kombucha with a starter. There's, I highly, highly recommend. It's a great way at home to, you get the mother, and it's a kind of like a starter, and you do ferment it, because that way you can ferment the berries, you can ferment mint, you can ferment rhubarb. So you can go to your garden if you have one, or I recommend a community garden, because again, these are all things that they don't take a lot of money. You don't have to go to the finest grocer. Like, I love going to Trader Joe's because I live in Vancouver. So we go down to Trader Joe's, and there's a lot of, wonderful economy condiments and all of that. And then I use my garden, I use my friends' gardens, and I really, again, cheese, a tip in terms, some of our markets, they have a bin that you go and you get it's more the ends or whatever. And so I'll do that if I want to do just a small charcuterie plate and cheese plate and all that. And otherwise I'll park it here in terms of, otherwise I also do speak, it's almost a whole other episode for us to do on no food waste, because that then also gives addition to budget. It gives addition to how we eat and how our money is saved and how our dining experiences are elevated. I know I've given a lot, and I'm all over, but that's the reality. We go into our fridge, and some days we make limoncello out of lemons, because we just go in and it's, what do we have in there? And those are sometimes the best meals that we have with each other.
That's so awesome. What I loved, and you said so much, but what I really want to highlight is a little goes a lot. So maybe you can't buy a whole basket, but you can buy a few berries, right? And just putting that intentionally, if you're having pancakes, or maybe you're just having macaroni and cheese, and you just sprinkle some turmeric or some paprika on there, and now suddenly it becomes a little bit more of a memory, right? Or putting in some mint, and just some intentional additional, I think, is so profound. And that's creating that memory. Maybe you're creating that memory of a celebration. Maybe it's a memory just of you two having that time. I see my grandson about once a week, and so I'm always intentional about doing something with him. I always want to bring him something. And lately it's been our drizzle strawberries as our thing, right? That's kind of our jam. And he knows he loves it, and we pair it with his, whatever we're doing. So that's so great. And you're getting great tip, and I did it. That was in your food diversity. My business partner brought in these wonderful dates, and you said
Yes.
I had some walnuts, and I did the drizzle honey. Oh my gosh, it was divine. Divine. I'm giving you a shout out. You need to get some dates. Maybe you haven't done that.
Divine, yes.
It was absolutely divine. So where can someone start if they're just wanting, maybe they want to get into the wines, or maybe they're not alcoholic? What are some baby steps, before we get into all the different areas and all of that? What are some baby steps? Maybe graduating from the $2 chuck. Like, what's the next level there?
Absolutely.
Well,
Well, and
now my mac and cheese. There you go, Mr. Mike Drug. He said, hold the mint on my mac and cheese. Okay. You don't have to put the mint on your mac and cheese, but you know what I mean?
no,
You can dress it up a little bit, Mr. Mike.
exactly.
Mike Drug.
Exactly. No, and you bring up such a great point, because so in my wine world, I speak a lot about sustainable wine. And the reality is that we want to enjoy, whether it's wine, cider, beer, non-alcoholic. And I'm bringing non-alcoholic into it for a very specific reason, in terms of a lot of the products are going to contain sugar, in terms of in whether it is natural or added. And so it's always looking at the ingredients, in terms of sometimes, and I know what you mean, the $2 chuck, Charles Shaw, it's been not only a staple at times. It's $9 chuck here by the time we get it to Canada. So I've talked many a time about that. And the interesting thing is, if you go just a few dollars more into France, Spain, Italy, they have organic wine that is going to be in that, more into that, somewhere between 12 and 20. For us, it's more like 15 to 25, because again, just adjusting for US currency to Canadian currency. And so where I recommend people, when they're wanting to up their wine game a bit, then looking to Spain, Portugal, France, Italy, Argentina, there are phenomenal value for the wine that they have. And places like the old world wines, they have been making organic and sustainable wines for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And they don't stamp it organic or sustainable the same way that our marketing in North America, or even Australia, New Zealand, or other places do. The other arena, the other aspect of that is, as I say, it's you want someone who you can trust. So you want someone, for example, when you and I were talking, I ask a few questions, and I always say, because people are always like, oh no, I ask 3 questions, and it's typically, are you looking for white or red? And we're talking non-alcoholic wine as well now for this. And do you like a light or a heavy? And then if I am delving into, if it's a restaurant, then I may ask price point. But I ask a few questions, and then I give you my recommendations specifically for where you are, in terms of if it's something that you're buying through Costco or through Tesco or through like we have Wine and Beyond, we have all of these different stores. We have the LCBO or Willowbrook, and we have Marquee Wine Cellars. So finding someone that you can, it's twofold. When you're upping your game for wine and entertaining and food and all that, I always say gravitate to the person who you understand their language. So you and I, we gelled, and it's fire. It's always, you and I said, an hour is not really enough time for a conversation, even with technological difficulties, because we understand, we just connect and we click, and all the people in the audience, right? Their questions, I welcome their questions, their comments, because when you find someone who gets you, then you're going to trust them, as well as they're going to give you better recommendations. And so it's part of what people always say, well, what sets myself apart from other Psalms or other people? And it's the fact of, I could sit here and I could promote a particular wine or a particular region exclusively and be sponsored by them, but that wouldn't be doing you and your audience a service. So I say, typically people will find, when they want to up their game, to kind of wrap it in a bow, is people will find articles, or they'll hear about something on one of the social medias, and again, all of it is marketing. We put ourselves out there to look good. We put ourselves out there to be the best. And there are wines, and there are products, wines, beers, non-alcoholic, that are better than others, that are in just a bit of a different price point, and I can go higher or lower. And so I always do say, I appreciate that people put their trust, and I always say I appreciate people putting their palate in my hands. So finding that person, because it's not always going to be me, but hopefully most of the time it will be.
Absolutely. I know what you mean, is really feeling like you understand that person, because it really is creating that memory, whether you're having a dinner party or a wedding or celebration, or maybe it's just a special dinner with yet significant somebody. For me, it's my precious grandson. It may be somebody else for you, but creating that sensory memory, it really is being intentional. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Just doing something out of your heart, picking a few berries, finding maybe a cider that you enjoy, and maybe you don't enjoy it. Maybe it's something that you try out and you don't like it, but you still created that memory, right? You're like, okay, we won't repeat that one.
Absolutely. Because not knowing what you don't like is as important, if not more important, than knowing what you do like. For example, last night was with a friend, and we were in Steveston, Richmond, which is a fishing village area, and it's quaint, and yet it's touristy, right? So it's commercial fishing, and there's a place called Shady Island, and this is what sensory memory with regards to wealth. When you and I were talking, this is why we decided on the topic. So Shady Island is a restaurant that's right on the water, and I have very good memories of it because a few years ago, a company I worked for, I did the liquor licensing alongside, well, actually not the liquor licensing. I did the assistance of finding a purchaser when the owners were wanting to retire. And so I have that sensory memory of working with them and them getting to retirement and the new owners. And so we went there last night and saw the menu, and we had a simple fare, and I had a beer, a Kronenberg beer, and it was, just sublime, because my friend and I texted back and forth, and it was like the best. I can tell you the fishing boats, I can describe the breeze, I can describe the children that I heard laughing in the background because they were running along the boardwalk. So in that regard, I can reenact, I can basically tell the story of all of that to you, which gives you that sense of putting you into it. And that is what we do every single day with our family, our friends, our business, and coming at the end of the day to bring it around how you say, it's the gratitude sandwich. I love it because from waking up in the morning and having all of that, then you have that at the end of the night when you're able to look back on how beautiful the day was, how successful, and knowing you can create more memories going forward.
That is so good. That's so profound. And I'm going to bring it back to our queen, Dr. Leslie. Listen, for me, how I interpret this is that, let's say you have a goal, you have a vision to buy a house or to
Yes.
live in a particular area and that you can't quite afford yet. Go visit that area and have a cup of coffee in that area, and have a wonderful cup of coffee, and maybe you pair it with something there. Take it out to that boardwalk and take in all of your senses. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you smell out there? Bringing in all of those sensories, and now what are you doing? You're putting yourself somewhere where you intend to be, and creating that
Yes.
sensory memory. Right now you're bringing it into your reality. That's what I believe. That's what I'm going to stick to.
I love it, and you've positioned it perfectly well, because the purpose of us having this discussion with regards to why sensory memory in wealth is important is exactly what you said. A friend of mine, we were on, I believe it might have been the space you were on, we were talking about people who want to travel to another country. So you have a vacation that you've always wanted to go to, let's say for me, Spain. And I know it was someone that I was speaking with specifically. And so I said, go and get some currency changed into the currency of the place that you're going to visit, and carry it with you in your wallet so that you see it. And it's that similar thing in terms, it's the other, the other way that I start my day is after I get up and when I'm having my coffee and my meditation, I have a conversation with my future self.
Yeah.
So it's what we call quantum jumping. And so when we focus our attention on the person that we already are,
That's right.
in terms of the person that we want to be, and we bring that person to being us in the present moment. What I'm learning and what I'm working with on quantum jumping with it is I'm having a conversation with the me that has bought the house, that has not only bought it, that I'm living in it, that I have the new business, that I have the vacation, that I speak with that Teresa, and I learn and I glean from that Teresa, and I bring it into my present, so that Teresa is the Teresa that appears at my meetings. That's the Teresa that my friends have coffee with. And it's when we do that, we appear, even just me talking about it, my whole energy, our energy shifts, and it is so profound and successful.
That's beautiful. And I love that you said that. One thing I do when I'm meditating or I'm saying my affirmations, my goals, and all that, I love eucalyptus. And so I
Yes.
have a shout out to doTERRA. If you're a doTERRA person, you need to be telling this to people. Use these senses, right? These use different aromas to engage your senses.
Yes.
And so what I do is I
Yes, absolutely.
enjoy the eucalyptus to solidify that into my muscle memory, right? To solidify that sensory memory.
That's
Right.
right.
It truly, truly is. Wow. This has been such a great conversation. This just flew by. This is really, there's so much we can go into, but really for me, my biggest takeaway is what you said, what the quote that you shared in the beginning is that you always are wealthy because you always bring something to the table. What are you bringing to the table? Like what is the you that you're sharing with others? How are you showing up? how are you pouring into yourself? Again,
Yes.
that's so corny. And really, how are you creating those memories? How are you intentionally creating those memories, solidifying them for you, for your family, which is your legacy, right? Creating those traditions. So I absolutely love this, Miss Triz. And before we go here, how can people get a hold of you? What can they see in the next coming up for you on the horizon? Share a little bit about this before we're going to drop off here in just a minute.
Thank you. Thank you. I am a very big proponent of LinkedIn networking at the moment in terms, it's amazing community. So everyone can find me, Teresa Rue, on LinkedIn. I am building my website. So that will be coming out. It will be virtualwineconcierge.ca coming out in the next weeks. I am on Instagram. I tend to keep the social media at a minimum. So if anyone wants to, connect with me there, I embrace connections and followings and all of that. There's so many great things because I not only have what I do with Virtual Wine Concierge, I am working with Noni Ferrani, and we've created Food Diversity, which is a weekly audio space. And we have many great things coming forward in the fall. So people watch the space for October, November. And so each week we delve into pouring into ourselves and each other by way of the food that we enjoy at home locally and how the rest of the world enjoys food. And we bring that cultural diversity to the table. So please join us every Thursday and please connect with me on LinkedIn. And Leah, I absolutely would hope that we can do this again because from all of this, I have notes and I would love to connect more with audience. And you are a wealth of information, knowledge, and financial success for people.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I love it. So many great takeaways. So, absolutely, please, if you're on LinkedIn, connect with Teresa. She's a wealth of information and helping you to create your own sensory memories, right? Whatever your budget is, wherever you are. So that's going to do it for this edition of Wealthy Wednesday. I love the conversation. I loved all of you for joining us. Thank you for joining in today. It was amazing. And they say a rising tide raises all boats, but I say only if your boat is in the water. So I honor you for putting your boat in the water today, Chris and Mr. Jones and Margaret and Divine and Dr. Leslie Flowers. I mean, we and many, many others who joined us. We appreciate you. And we will see you all at the top because we know it's way too crowded at the bottom. That's it for us. See you next time.
Thank you, Leah. Bye, everyone.